Welcome back to the Team Akhi podcast, guys. It's your boy Mo Idris, and I got Ash and my boy Neus here, man. How we doing, boys?
Oh, good. Everything's good. How about you?
Good.
Yeah, good, man. How's life?
Same old same. Can't complain, man.
Busy.
It's been a busy week. Yeah.
Busy week.
Busy.
Bro, you know what? The IT world, man,
I think we all doing it.
it's changed
That time
me.
of the year.
It's changed me. And you know what? I got triggers in this business, boy. There's certain customers, yeah? I shouldn't even be saying this, but there's certain customers that will have you catching feelings, boy. I'm telling you, and they will have you stressed, man. They just got them
leads well to
triggers.
today's episode, though.
When they're paying, yeah,
Leads
good
well to
segue,
the subject,
100%,
actually.
yeah.
Sorry, but that
You know
does.
what? 100% smashed it, bro. You're right. Because I find myself having to. So what we wanted to chop it up about today was managing conflict, right? So I'll give a bit of a synopsis, as I normally do. So the reason why I personally wanted to talk about this was I feel like the world is just filled with conflict. One of the phrases we used on a previous podcast was "There's no debate left to have." Like everything has been argued over, you know, so nothing surprises you anymore. It's even got a little bit cynical, hasn't it? With like is it a blue dress or is it a gold dress? We all remember that one, right? So, and that's a different type of conflict, but real conflict, you know, road rage, out in the streets, between family, between friends, at work, online, which is probably the most common.
The worst of it, yeah.
People get brave online, innit? So yeah, that's why I want, because I feel like there's a lot of advice. Technically, lads, I read something today, and you're not going to like this. We're considered middle age.
Yeah, we
Because
are.
the average,
Yeah.
so I didn't know this. So
I was
this
thinking
is,
about this the
this
other day,
was new
actually.
news to me.
Yeah, I
man.
was thinking about this last week. I was like,
So yeah, for us, I say that to say,
them grays ain't been showing in the mirror lately, huh?
Oi.
We all got them, so I'm just saying, you know. I'm just saying. He said he didn't know he was middle aged. Where you been, man?
I feel it.
one of them ones in the film where you walk past the mirror and you're like,
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
No, you know the first grey. That will set you off, man.
No, it wasn't. For me, it wasn't the first gray. It was like the random gray, like the one in your nose. You're like, you're like, what the hell is this? Oh, what's going on in here? Like that random one. It's not even the ones. The ones on your hair is like, cool. That's supposed to happen.
There you go.
It's all the random ones you don't know about.
So I say all of that to say we're obviously at an age where we would have experienced it quite a few times in our lives, right? And sometimes we make the right decisions. Sometimes more often than not, I personally would say, you know, coming up, I made the wrong decision. And I think there's a lot to be said from all three of us around how people could kind of learn from our experiences and things that we've seen in and around the world, and how we feel it's best been managed. Not only that, what are the good influences? What are the things that drive you to react in that conflict? And one last thing I'll say before I pass over the mic is, I heard something recently where a guy said, you know, you act out what you think. And that seems like a very simple and an obvious statement. But let's say there's somebody in the community you've met once or twice, right? And you've just taken a disliking to that person. If you leave and that person is etched in your mind, and whenever you think about something that reminds you of them, it's a negative thought. Each time you interact with them, it's going to be more and more negative. So there's a lot more control on you than there is on that person, because they're, like, as they say, the famous saying, they're living in your head rent free. They may not even be thinking about you. You know, so that was one of the things that really made me look into this in my 30s was, you know, why do I give people that much power? And that's, you know, probably the right time before I go into a bit of a tangent about it, to pass over to you boys on what your thoughts on the topic are, man.
I think when it comes to conflict, as you said, it evolves over time. Your reaction to it, the way you approach it, evolves over time, but it's also based on influences, based on your surroundings. So you can be with different characters, different type of people, and react to conflict in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, depending on if you're with a rowdy bunch, if you're with a calm bunch. But I think the problem a lot of people have is inconsistency or an unsureness of how to approach conflict, especially since the pandemic. I believe more so since the pandemic, because we seem to have lived on an online world for too long. for that period of time where we were all in lockdown. You couldn't go out, you couldn't face-to-face socialise with people. And I think a lot of people developed miscommunication.
Can I just want to interject for 1 second and just add to that is, it's crazy if you think about how long man has existed, and that's short. And we, you know, we're a social species, aren't we? And it's just crazy how, in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about a minuscule amount of time, a blink, you know, and how it can affect us so much. It's just mad. It really is. Yeah,
because it really changed the way
it took things away from you.
Yeah,
it took things away from you, man. But to be fair, I kind of identified with the pandemic. I think I was probably one of the only few people that was not bothered by the pandemic. I was happy sitting in my house, enjoying my life, working from home. It was pretty good. And
I was up and down,
and it didn't phase me. But I've also been in scenarios where you've had to be sat down and you can't do what you're supposed to do. So
that's the thing.
So it's a very similar mindset to that, and it is weird because you say it's a short amount of time, but as such social creatures, any time away, you know, you can even probably go online and look at some experiments where they've put people or locked people away
100%
from people for like a certain amount of time.
I imagine those are like torture routines.
It changes them. You know what I mean? Because it's not something you're used to. When people have put you in a position you're not used to, you whether you know it or not, there's going to be that little tweak.
You know what it is for me? You make a good point. So you were fine on your own during the pandemic, and the majority of the pandemic, I was cool. Like, I was in a good place. I was with my favourite person, my other half. And if anything, it brought us closer. But the reason being is that the pandemic taught a lot of people whether they're comfortable in their own head.
So I posted something similar, right, which was, well, the pandemic made us all look in the mirror, didn't it?
Absolutely.
It forced us to look in the mirror.
And what do you think socializing in the way some people do to the extreme is? It's them not facing themselves. It's they constantly want to be around people. They constantly
Well, it's funny because when you guys were talking about conflict, in a sense, the first thing that pops to my mind is acceptance and opinion.
Like self-conflict or?
But any conflict. A lot of conflict is down to you not accepting me, or you not accepting my thoughts or my opinion or whatever. It's acceptance.
So let's break it down then. Let's start there. In that personal responsibility, your state of mind, everything that you're taking in, all the information that you were alluding to in the last episode that you're taking in, all these experiences that you have, and this kind of acceptance. I like that word, acceptance, man. It's
that's a great way to put it. Acceptance is a great
just
way.
Very quickly, Jay-Z, he did an interview where he said he was talking about back in the day he saw somebody and he goes, there was this thing of, if you glanced, we all experience this, I definitely experienced this, is when you glanced at somebody in the street, sometimes they would be like, well, what are you looking at? And he went through a whole, very eloquently put it as Jay-Z does, right? But he ultimately came to the idea of, this guy is ashamed of who he is, you know, and he doesn't like people looking at him in such a desperate situation.
Exactly that.
He recognizes that more than you do. For you, it's just a quick social glance. It's just
just checking him out.
Okay,
cool.
Maybe you're not even. Maybe you're just looking that way.
No. Yeah. You just look. Okay, cool.
Exactly. And that, I think, is deeply rooted, isn't it? If you look at road rage, really interests me, right?
That's my weakness.
Yeah. So this is interesting. It's my weakness as well.
Yeah,
I've got in some mad situations in the car, boy.
I don't have this problem.
Yeah, you just don't.
I don't have the time to hit the horn and talk.
Like I remember I was with my dad, God rest his soul. I was with him once, right? And there was and I'm saying this because this was the cause of it, right? There was a whole load of stuff going on in my life at the time, right? And we got to a mini roundabout right near Tesco's, and Halfords, where all of that is in Bletch, yeah. So we got the roundabout, and then this guy just like swerved dangerously in front of me, and I had to kind of, and he caught me at such a bad time because in my head I was really angry at that point, yeah.
Okay.
So I got out of the car. Like, it wasn't even anything to get out the car for. I had my old man with me and my cousin in the back. It was very immature. The whole thing was on me, yeah? So I got out the car, and the reason why I did is because the guy was forced to stop in front of me where there was a whole queue. It made no sense what he did, right? But I was looking for an out. I was looking for somewhere to
vent.
disperse
You were
all of
looking
that
to vent.
energy.
Yeah.
And
release
I
the
got
pressure
out,
cooker.
walked up to his car, and I started effing and blinding. And I'm not proud of this moment at all. I started effing and blinding. And then he kind of looked at me, realized I was really angry, probably didn't want any heat or anything at all, right? And then drove off. And it was just as a time where those, you know, the temporary traffic lights or whatever they had there kind of went green and everybody started to drive. So he drove off. I got in my car and my dad said to me, I'm really disappointed in you. This is so out of character for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll kind of cool my head down. But the point is that road rage really interests me because really it's a symptom. It's not a natural reaction, is it? It's a symptom of something else.
Yeah, it's how you deal with anger. It's your psyche of how you deal with anger and how you process it.
So
Again,
it,
it's acceptance of you feeling that way and trying to understand. This is not me being like a therapist or a psychiatrist or anything professional, but that's just my thought process on it. So for me, road rage is my weakness. It used to be a lot worse than it is. My other half plays a huge part in keeping me calm, in terms of the fact that she can literally predict my triggers now before I'm even triggered. So she sees a situation happen on the road around me, and she will just put her hand on my hand and be like, just leave it. Before I've even... she can see the cogs are just starting to move, and she'll be like, it's not worth it. And I'll just calm down.
Yeah.
But my biggest weakness now is when someone almost causes an accident with you involved, or is about to cause an accident with your car, and then when you honk or whatever, they react by giving you the finger. That's it. For me, red, I'm not stopping till I've got, till I've talked to you and find out what that was about.
Yeah.
The difference with conflict with me from a kid. So when I was younger...
I like the way you put that, by the way. I've got to talk to him and
find
out.
It's just red goes over and I need to find out what. And honestly, it never got physical. It was always me enraged asking them why they did it.
Yeah.
And in the end, they always apologize. Honestly, every single time it's happened, they've always gone, all right, I'm sorry. Like, okay, my bad. And that's all I'm trying to say to them is, look, all I'm asking for is if you can see you've done something wrong and someone beeps you, just flash your hazards or put your hand out and go, sorry. Yeah, my bad.
It's crazy because it deflates you as well when the other person acknowledges that they've just made a mistake. Yeah. That always deflates me.
Immediately just go, what a good guy. Or I'll flash and be like, no problem. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, you let them go.
You've made a mistake.
Acceptance.
You accept it.
Yeah.
But the trigger for me is, when someone winds the window, gives you the finger and tries to drive off when they're this, like when they've caused the issue. To me, that's like people who troll online behind a ghost 100%. Account. That's what it's like to me. It's like I'm in my car, you don't exist. It's as if their car's a bubble and no one can get at them. Yeah. And then as soon as you get out and walk up, you just see the terror on their face of like someone's actually reacted. I've pushed it too far. Yeah. But I never get up physically. I literally just walk over. I'm like, what was that all about?
Another thing my dad said to me that day. He says you have no idea what's going on in that car.
Oh no, 100%.
So that happened to me.
100%.
That's what changed my perspective. That's literally what changed my perspective.
100%.
So if I used to get road rage, I used to try and move up to talk to a person, right? And this guy like cut me off completely in London. Yeah. And this is when I learned it's just
London's
not worth
crazy
it.
like that, way.
And the guy, he did something crazy. I pulled up in front of him and I went to go say something, and he was like, "What, you want something?" And he just started following me. And then he cuts me off at a set around lights, comes to my window. And when I open my window to be like, "Mate, what is your problem?" He just literally sticks his hand through my window, grabs me by the throat. Yeah. And he's a big dude and he's trying to do something. The only reason I got out of that is I'd left the window wide enough for him to get his arm through. Yeah. But as soon as his arm got through and grabbed my neck, I closed my window on his arm. Yeah. And he's trying to pull it. He's trying to pull it back and it's stuck. Yeah. And I just start slowly driving forward. And his face went from anger to pure terror. Yeah, he thought I was about to floor it with his arm stuck in the window. Right. So I just let it open a little bit, yanked his arm back, and I just drove off. Yeah. And he was like, "Yeah, it's not worth this. Yeah. Because something's going to go wrong." Yeah. But when I was younger, rage was a very different thing for me. I learned I had like anger rage at a very young age. And I say young age, like I never really got into conflict when I was young. I always tried to be, friendly with everyone. Yeah. And then when I was like...
Those are the people with the real rage, y'all.
When I was like 16, 17...
Those happy people, you see them all the time. They always happy.
Switch.
Too happy. They always so happy.
I was like 17 at the time. And 17, or maybe 18. And I was having a back and forth with this guy at school who was trying to threaten my little brother, who was 3 years below. And I was like, look, buddy, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time with this? If you want to talk to someone about whatever your issue is, come and talk to me. So one day on the road, this back and forth happens, and he starts throwing things at my car as he's driving in front of me, and they're smacking the front windscreen.
This is not long after that situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he comes up to my window. He stops his car on the road on a single carriageway through this estate, actually. There's a single carriageway on the other side of the estate in the country section.
Yeah.
There's almost like a country road next to a farm.
Yeah.
And he stops his car in the middle of the road, gets out, comes over, and he does the same. He grabs me by the throat. He tries to come and grab me by the throat, but this time when I was younger, I just see rage, and I grab his arm and pull him through the window. And he looks up and sees the car's full. There's 3 other guys in there who obviously get hyped up by it. We're 18. They all get hyped up by it. So he yanks his arm back and runs to his car, and I've lost it at this point. This is the first time I ever completely lost control of my anger. So I run in front of his car, and I'm like, get out of the car. Come get out of the car. And he's looking at me, and he's just going, no. He had a little Yaris, I remember it. And he sat behind the wheel looking at me terrified. He's like, no. And he thinks everyone's going to jump him. And they're not. They're opening the door being like, look, we'll leave you to one-to-one. Just get out of the car. Go speak to him. You were the one who grabbed him by the throat.
Yeah.
And then he looks at me and gives me this smirk. Sorry, I'm talking for a while.
No.
Gives me
You
this
carry on,
smirk.
bro. You
It's
carry
part
on.
of the thing.
I absolutely lose it and start beating down on his front bonnet. I'm not even thinking what I'm doing. I'm just beating on his front bonnet of his car, yelling at him to get out of the car. To the point where I can see he's scared. I'm punching down on the car, and he quickly floors it, and I move out the way, and he drives off. And then the next thing I know, my dad rings. We drive off, and they're like, yeah, he's a this, he's a that, he's a wimp and all this. And then I just get a call from my dad. And he goes, why have I got a guy and his dad on my doorstep telling me you've done this? And we've talked about what our fathers were like.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, I
It's
immediately
crazy.
have to
Very
drop you
similar
all
thing
home.
happened to
I
me with
have
my
to
dad.
go home.
Yeah.
Immediately.
So I went home, immediately brought home. They stood on my doorstep. Wow, have you seen our car? Have you seen what you've done? And rah. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty angry in the time. And the dad's raging. And my dad's just looking at me like, what is this? What's happened? And he goes, look what he did to the car. And he goes, yeah, Dad, he did this. And rah. And I went, okay, did he tell you why I lost my call and came for him? And he was like, no. And I was like, he hasn't explained the full story then. And my dad looks at me and he goes, what do you mean? I said, listen, sir, like I said it to his dad. I went, my parents have always taught me that I'm never allowed to lay a finger on someone unless someone lays a finger on me. And he grabbed me by the throat through the car window, and I lost my call. And I'm sorry, but that's what he did. Yeah. And his dad goes, is this what happened? And he went, well, and as soon as he went, well, my dad went, my son's actually absolutely justified. Like, if your son's done that, my son's absolutely justified in losing his call. I'm sorry for what's happened to your car. It is what it is. So we agreed to stay away from each other. This is actually quite funny. I'll finish with this. Like, we agreed to stay away from each other. My mum goes, are we done with this? Can I go and see my mum now? And my dad's like, yeah, you can go do your thing. So my mum goes, get inside first. I want to talk to you. Pulls me inside. And just as they're talking, him and his dad, my mum goes, I'm going to leave. I'll be back soon and we need to talk. And I went, okay. She goes to her car and comes back. She goes, my car's been egged. And it had happened a few times and it was him who had done it. And my dad went, what? And he went, my car's been egged. And he went, where? And he walked around and looked at it. And then my dad lost his cool.
Oh, no.
And then my dad goes red, starts yelling, sees red. His dad comes, like, grabs him and quickly starts walking out. Let's get away from these people. And rah, I can see where your son gets his rage. And my dad's just like, you guys have nothing for brain. Like, look what your son's doing. And then you turn up on my doorstep and say, we're the problem. Just leave. Yeah. We go inside. And this is where I learned that I never wanted to get into a fight with anyone at the time. I'm not saying I'm not saying that. I'm just saying my mum came in and she gave me this real serious look that I'd never seen on her face. And she was like, did you see their car? And I went, no. And she goes, Ash, what did you use? Like, what did you use when you were hitting the car? And I went, and I showed her the red on my hands here, and I was like, my hands? She was like, Ash, that car looked like it had been in like a serious front end accident. She goes, I'm not even joking. The bonnet was completely like bent inwards, and you can see you could see real big dents on the bonnet.
That's crazy.
She was like, just promise me you'll never fight someone. Because I'd hate to see, if you were in that rage, what would happen if you got into a fight.
Yeah.
And from then onwards, I never did. Like, I never got physical with anyone.
Yeah.
Never wanted to.
And that's like I think that's the perfect story, because there was a lot of in that story, there was a lot of me this and I did that and I shouldn't have done this and that's what it is, isn't it? It's the first part of I think preventing conflict is understanding your triggers, understanding what makes you tick, understanding what there was this one person who said replay thoughts in your head, like or recreate certain scenarios in your head of what would happen if this would happen. And a lot of people who are clued up, a lot of people who work in intelligence agencies, a lot of people who work on the front line, they play out scenarios in their mind just to plan what they would do in that moment.
Yeah.
A lot of martial artists do that as well. And it's I think mastering that is the first part of preventing conflict, isn't it? Is saying, if this ever happened, what would I do? You know what I mean? And that's, you're never going to be able to get it right. When would you have ever played in your head? Yeah, if I'm ever on a country road somewhere and somebody's got their car parked in the middle, it's just not that realistic, is it? But if I do ever get into a conflict and somebody comes for me, how am I going to react? And I think that's so important for us to do that, man. Sorry, Yanks, you look like you've been wanting to say something.
Nah, I mean, I hear you. I don't think it's that deep, though. I think, at the end of the day, you can plan what you're going to do in your head, but we all know that in real life, when the thing happens, sometimes that plan don't even get used.
Did you not ever
what is it that Mike Tyson said? Everybody think they somebody till they get punched
in the face.
Did you guys ever do that though? Like, envision a conflict that you knew was coming, and you're picturing like some John Wick stuff or like some Matrix type moves you're gonna do.
When I was a lot younger, definitely.
Yeah, do you know when you're young?
To be honest, man, I think when it came to conflict, I dealt with a lot of my conflict different. A lot of the time, I just avoid people. I think in life, something you just said, and you've said it twice now, the only thing you can control is you. You can't control what other people going to do. It's like driving. I can't control what that dude in front of me is going to do. He might pull out in front of me. He might not signal. He might turn left. He might go right. I can only control my car. But what I can do is keep an eye on him to make sure I don't end up where he is. And rear end him or have him swipe me or whatever whatever you do. So for me, don't get me wrong, I've been in fights, I've been in a lot of situations. So I'm not saying that every situation has, conflict hasn't been had, but I think over those periods of going through that conflict, I think my main thing was you just realize that, look, there are signs to some of the stuff that you end up in, whether that's people you hang with, whether that's groups, whether that's, beliefs, whatever your conflict may be, there are signs that show you that you're bleeding into this. You know what I mean? And it's easy, I would say for the road rage thing, that's hard. I don't actually have road rage, but I would say I've seen people with road rage. I've also seen people with what I would call road funny, maybe, because they don't do...
funny.
Yeah. Because
road comedy.
Because they're because I've seen some people that actually get off on cutting people off and doing stupid things like that.
Oh yeah, I
you know what I mean?
get that.
I've seen people do that. I've been in cars with people where
you've been in my car multiple times where we're on like a motorway or A5 and someone just pulls out in front of you as I'm going down the fast lane. Someone will just pull out in front of us, and even he will be like, "Bro, just leave it." They're that type of person.
Yeah.
Because what can you do? Did he kill you? No. So just hope that stay the hell away from that guy. Sorry, my language. But stay away from that guy. That's all you can do is avoid you. If I'm driving on a road and I see a car in front of me or beside me and it's doing, the driver don't look like he's not there. Maybe he's sleeping, maybe he's drunk, maybe whatever. I don't know. You wouldn't go stand right next to them. You wouldn't drive right behind them. You wouldn't, you know what I mean? So it's about keeping your distance from things that you don't need to be involved with or you don't see. The other day I was talking to my kid, and a lot of this comes through, it's weird because getting old, you see a lot of things, middle age, shall I say. Getting middle age.
He said getting old.
Getting middle age.
That's crazy.
Getting middle age.
You ain't getting old, bro.
Man, I feel like it. But anyway, getting to a point where you can like see other people's conflict. My kid's gotten into stupid fights and things that's happened to him. I should tell you. But the thing is this, you talk to them, like the other day, my kid got into something and I'm asking him what happened and he's like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? But at the same time, I also remember being a kid. And I also remember having those times where my parents would ask me what happened and you're just literally like, it's not even that I don't know, but I don't even know if I can articulate this. Yeah. Because it's stupid. It's the stupidest thing to ever happen, Mom. But, so for me to even say it to you, I almost feel like you should slap me. The reasoning
behind it is
you
so,
should slap
yeah,
me for this, what I'm about to say to you. So I can't even explain it. And it's funny because in that moment, I could have just switched and said, you better tell me what happened, whatever. But it's funny because I actually thought back to being me as a kid and looking at my parents and having nothing to say, being speechless. Because what am I going to say? Anything I say right now will be used against me in the court of law. I am not willing to incriminate myself. You know what I mean? So from a kid's point of view, I was just laughing. I was just laughing because in my head I'm laughing because I'm looking at him going, you know what? I can remember what this is like. Go to your room, chill out. And then I caught up with him later, and obviously he goes into the situation of, the scenario, and I'm like, but why are you arguing with people for no reason? And he goes, what do you mean? And I went, you could have stopped that happening at any point. But because you didn't want to accept this person is an idiot or this person, I disagree or I agree to disagree. Your opinion is your opinion. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I don't need to fight my case. I can be in the office sometimes. I hear people say the wildest things, and I know they're not right. I know the answer. But it's like, man, I do not even want to get into it with you right now because I already know what kind of person you are. You're not going to be happy that I just G-checked you and gave you the real answer. You're going to think, oh, he's trying to have one over on me, make me look stupid, whatever it is, and that's my point. It's such a weird thing because when it comes to conflict, a lot of it is defense mechanisms. It's like I said, it's that acceptance. It's, oh, how dare you question me? I wanted to feel like I gave everyone the right answer and I was accepted, and you've now just literally put a stop to that and made it feel like, oh man, now I look like a liar, or I look like a stupid person, or I look like this. It's almost putting a light on somebody, and people don't like that. Like you said, you're looking at somebody in the street. What do you know about me? Why are you looking at me like this? You got a problem with me? You know what I mean? It's that whole. But for me, like I said, I think, the easiest way to deal with conflict sometimes, and it's not all the time you can do that because, like I said, I've had my own conflicts in life, but you just need to be able to observe the things around you, whether that's your own triggers, whether that's just people or behaviors that you don't like to be around or can cause problems. If you're around someone who talk too much and you don't like people that talk, then you're the one putting yourself in that position, right?
And the thing is, like, when you're young, in your adolescence, or even if you're older but just haven't learned to regulate your emotions and grow up, right? It's more often than not, you end up being proud of, oh yeah, I dealt with it like this. You remember that? And we all know somebody like that, and we've all experienced that. But I think as you do get older and you do get into these things, more often than not, you regret it, man. You just think, why did I act a fool in that moment?
And that's exactly why I'm like, that is exactly what I'm like.
But you know what it is? It's what you said. It's your age. Yeah. When you're younger, you have more time to be stupid and learn from those mistakes. Whether in the first instance you big it up as it's an achievement, or whether or not later on you look at it and go, yeah, I was stupid, I was young.
But I think Neus is I think the hardest part about now is it feels like the conflict has got bigger. It feels like people, I feel like especially the younger generation are coming up in a society where people haven't, I'm going to use the phrase again, you're going to hear it a few times in this podcast, is learn how to regulate their emotions or have emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is professionalism? We all work in a corporate environment. What is professionalism really? It's being courteous. It's not getting emotional, not reacting to certain situations, and articulating yourself in a way that shows a manner of respect or something.
Yep.
Ultimately, that's what professionalism is.
Yeah.
Would you disagree with that? I don't know.
But as a society, we've lost a lot of those things. Like if you want to go back and think about things like, you said, what is professionalism? And the first thing that came to my head when you said that was, what is a gentleman?
Yeah.
What is a gentleman?
What is etiquette? What is, these are the things that we used to have.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's weird because we live in a world that wants to be more accepting to who you are, not how you behave, not a certain trait, not a, you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing. As if you look at the age gap of people, we come from a generation of people being kind of groomed a certain way, led a certain way. The people before us, I was talking to somebody earlier about like back in the day, high society, how they'd go to all the balls and dress and certain things. When was the last time you see something like that?
Well, I think that still happens.
I know it does, but when was the last time you seen it? Okay.
In a movie, maybe.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
But it does happen. But it happens with who? Those people that keep those traditions and those values.
Yeah.
At some point, like, some of the conversations we've had here already, all these values and all these different backgrounds mix to a point where some of the values get watered down, left out, things like that. So in my opinion, I'd say it's a weird situation, man, we live in, because the world is...
I can't accept that, though.
Do you know what it is?
This is sorry.
You're from a different
For me,
generation.
Yeah,
but
That's why
Neus mentioned about... Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. No, that's why he can't accept it, because he's from a different generation. It's like our parents. That's all you got to think about, man. History repeats itself. Everything we do has already been done under the sun. It's just technology changes and things change. So the same way your parents used to look at you and go, man, I don't get this kid. Why he act like that? Why he look like that? Why he always feel like that? The older generation were meant to, they didn't show emotion like we did. And the younger generation show way more emotion than we did.
So that's the key point. So there's two areas I was going to touch upon. You mentioned about age, right? It's because you get older, and when you get older, you approach it differently. But my thought process came at it from a different angle with age, because I think you're absolutely right. Age plays a massive part of it. But I think it's because you go through more in your life.
Yeah,
you have more empathy for other people. Well, you should have more empathy that other people can go through stuff as well, or could be going through a certain emotional state or something like that. So you have a bit more understanding when you're older. You also have less. You also realize once you get to a certain age how quickly time is going. And you just realize, I have not got time for this.
That's true.
That's the other thing, is time. Like, I haven't got time to waste energy on this. Neus is very good at that. That's one thing he passed on in terms of learnings that I've had from knowing him as such a close friend, is don't waste time and energy on things that just don't matter, to you or your future. Like, why are you even bothered by it?
So Miri. Yeah, Miri. Yeah. Today,
I love that brother, man. I love him.
Today he goes, man, something happened. And he goes, man, I hate that guy. And I went, bro, that's like the 12th person I've heard you say you hate in this office, man. Like, do you hate everybody? And he goes, nah, I just hate that guy. And I'm like, bro, that's such a weird thing. I said, why are you like this? And he goes, what do you mean? And I went, why you spend so much emotion on this person? And he went, I don't care. What do you mean? I don't share their emotion on them. Why? What do you mean? I don't care. And I went, but you do care. For you to go out of your way to say you hate someone, that means you actually care enough to say that.
Yeah.
If you don't care, you wouldn't even acknowledge
I do feel like
with
him, it's more of a off the cuff comment than it is actual hate.
No,
right?
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But I was trying to. It wasn't about. I know he's not like that. But I just mean like the thought of him saying that, because I've heard him say it so many times, and I'm like, why'd you use this word? Hate, because hate is next to love, and if you love someone, that's an emotional thing. So if you hate someone, you also are showing emotions. Yeah. Whereas what you want to say is, I don't care, or that guy, I don't like him. I ain't got time for him.
I used to say that. I used to use that exact phrase.
See what I mean?
And I remember my family getting so irritated by it. And they used to say to me, if you can find somebody who I like, then they must be a saint. Do you know what I mean? Because I seem to hate everybody, right? But it was, and the reason why I said what I said, right? Because it was just a throwaway statement. It may just be that they did something that irritated me, but my way to articulate is I hate that guy, man.
Shit, yeah.
I don't hate that guy.
It's a quick off the cuff thing.
And I get that, and that's the funny thing. Like when we're talking about it in office, but I'm like, but the fact that you choose that word, word is the actual word that is more tuned to more more not what you want it to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It's not the right word that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So let's, sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry. So we mentioned about obviously age being one of them, but the other one is that whole thing of like thinking back to our parents' generation before that. We've talked about culture.
Yeah.
Culture's followed certain standards for certain formalities of how you need to be acting day to day and the respect you need to show one another. And now we're at a stage where younger and younger people, everyone's got a voice, everyone's this, everyone's that. But that doesn't mean you can just say what you want. And that's the danger of what's happened with social media and the online kind of culture, that mentality that everyone's got a voice. Yes, they do. But the way you articulate yourself and you articulate those words matter.
Yeah.
You can't just go and tell someone they're wrong and try and cancel them. You can't just say what you're saying is the 100% gospel fact in terms of the debate we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that is it. It's not just appreciation of what someone's telling you. It's also the respect from the person delivering that message.
Yeah.
Because if I respect you, the way I deliver criticism to you is going to be two different ways compared to if I don't respect you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%.
And if you do that, you're just as bad delivering that message, looking for the conflict. You're doing it. We all know people who just love to start social fires and watch them.
Oh, bro.
Those people. We all know them.
Yeah.
There's always someone who's ruined a section of your life because they just wanted to drop a match and watch it. It's that whole thing of some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
I said it to you. Michael Caine says it in The Dark Knight. He's talking about the Joker.
Yeah.
And he says, some people just have no reason. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, there really is those people.
100%.
Like,
100%. And you know, like, I think leveling up, right? So we spoke about acceptance, we spoke about our own behaviors, but I want to level up. If somebody gets into a conflict, how do they, and this is because I feel like a lot of our conversations focused on, how can I put this? More of like a conflict with somebody in the street, right? That's how it's felt, right? But conflict can be anything, can't it? It can be a disagreement with a sibling, with your parents, with, you know, somebody in the community. It could be at work, whatever it is, right?
It could be a complaint in a restaurant, anything.
What's the best way to respond to it? What's the best way to respond to any type of conflict? Or go through each example if you feel like it's different, you know, different strokes for different folks.
I would say the thing is this. I am like Ash in one way. I share a similar trait with Ash is when I get angry, I see red, and I don't know what I do after that. It's a very simple thing. Hence why I said the calm people, we are the crazy people. Because if we do go past a certain point, there is no turning back. So I would say a lot of my time I've spent, you know, and I've told you this in the past, I spend a lot of my time trying to calm myself down so that I'm not instantly agitated. Because I think that is something, you know, the first thing you don't want to do in any situation anyway, whether it be a good scenario or a bad scenario, you don't want to jump straight in. You know, you need to actually always take, even if it's the 3-second rule, whatever you want to make your rule, you know, you always want to give yourself a minute to really articulate what is being said, what just happened, what, you know, I'd rather go, hold on, did he just say that about me? Like 2 minutes later than just to leap at somebody because they said that about me. You know what I mean? So it's about being, I guess, in control enough to understand what's going on.
You got to put a lot of work to get there, man.
No, it is.
It is, isn't it?
It's not. I don't think
one
it's
of the most
easy,
impressive.
I don't think it's easy, but I think it's something that you have to physically, like you said, you train yourself on certain things. You know what your triggers are. You know certain things. So it's about knowing that in those moments, you know, like for instance, what he said about his missus. She's been around him long enough to know certain moments how to just take it easy. You know what I mean? It's almost like Dr. Spock's sleep hold.
Yeah.
Like, I got you. You're good. Don't worry about nothing. You know what I mean? It's almost like that.
I just pass out. She grabs the wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
You get what I mean? It's almost like that because as people, we have to. You know, it's such a weird thing. Analyze. I keep saying this word, but it's the realest word I ever heard. You have to understand yourself.
Remember, team analyze. That's what this is gonna be called.
Before you understand, before you can
analytics are key.
Before you can do anything, you have to understand yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to understand what your, like you said, what your triggers are. You have to understand what your boundaries are. You have to understand your rules. You know, this is something I tell people a lot. You know, we have these stupid debates at work. What would you do in this scenario? What would you do if this happened? If a comet fell from the sky with diamonds attached to it, what would happen? Would you know what I mean? The office is full of these crazy scenarios, and everybody wants to know what your opinion is.
Yeah.
And the thing is this, like when it comes to certain things, my opinion will never change. Because I myself have already drawn a line on what my boundaries are.
Yeah.
I have an invisible line of what I will in my life accept and what I will not accept. You know what I mean? And hence why I said it, if you cross that line, then that's a different person you're staring at. But as long as we have a line established and I know where we are with that and you're in control of your situation, then you shouldn't have a problem.
Let's never cross that line, Ash.
Absolutely not.
Ever.
I never want to see that other side. He's too calm that
He's
I know.
too calm, 100%.
Like,
So one of the most impressive things I saw, as a youngster was one of my friends, Vishal. Big up Vishal. Shout out to you, brother. Killing it in Dubai. We were at, do you remember the Point?
Mm-hmm.
We were in the Point when the cinema was running, right? And there was this guy that had a real problem with him, right? And wherever he was, ultimately it came down to jealousy, right? Because Vishal had, he had it all. He was one of those guys. He had it all, right? This guy hated him. So we're standing in the cinema and this guy is just screaming in his face, I'm going to do this, bro. I'm going to do that. And he's like it's you know what they call it, a face to face in a boxing, right? It was like that, and he got so close to him a few times. He kind of headbutted him and lightly, and Vishal just stood there, straight face, just looked at him the whole time. Didn't move, just a blank look on his face. Didn't move. He wasn't scared. He wasn't worried about this in any way, shape, or form. The reason why, as a youngster, I kept Vishal close because he gave me comfort. He was one of those people that I know in conflict, he's the sort of person that you want there because he knows how to diffuse a situation. And he just stayed quiet, let that guy let everything out.
But that's sometimes what people
want. Just as it finished, he goes, so what are you going to do? And because he's let all of his rage out through his voice, there's nothing left for him to do. He ain't going to do anything. And not only that, V hasn't reacted to any of this. So he's wanting him to punch him. We're in a public place. There's cameras everywhere. He didn't react. Nothing at all. And then eventually the guy's just waffling, just walks off. One of the most impressive things I saw as a youngster, because to me, that's how you manage a conflict. That's how you deal with somebody who's screaming in your face. Maybe not every time. No. But
it depends.
That works,
man. It depends. Now, look, and that's actually a great scenario. And it works. Not for everybody, because some people won't just shout. They'll actually try to put their hands on you, or might even try to do something worse. But I would say, your friend showed exactly that. He was in control.
Yeah. That's why I told the story, because of what you said earlier.
I'm not going to let this situation make me, that's the thing. It's weird. You said there's something earlier. Don't let anyone live in your head rent free. And that's such a great saying. I use it myself a lot of the time, especially when I'm talking to my kids, especially when they get heated about the stupidest things. I'm like, why do you care so much? It's not that deep. Like, you need to learn to let things go.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big thing. A lot of people have too much pride. Pride is a bad thing sometimes. It can be a good thing, but generally speaking, it generally can be a bad thing. And it's because people don't want to be seen a certain way. They don't want to, the thing that you just said that killed that story was the blank expression.
Yeah.
I'm not showing you that I'm mocking you by laughing in your face. I'm not looking scared where you now feel you have the power and can push further. Do you see what I mean? I'm literally giving you, what the hell is going on? Sorry. You need to learn how to bleep this out.
That's all right, bro.
I keep doing
I got the bleeps ready.
Sometimes people just want to say what they need to say. Get it off their chest. They don't want you to say anything. You saying something actually makes it worse.
Yeah.
You saying something almost cuts them short. Almost takes away what they're trying to do, what they're trying to say. You know what I mean? Sometimes they just want to vent. Sometimes I just need to say what I need to say to you. You might not like it, but you need to hear this from me right now.
Yeah.
Because if I don't say this right now, then I'm never going to say it, and we might end up rolling around here because I'm so frustrated that you wouldn't let me say this. You know what I mean? And it was a woman that taught me this. And she said, sometimes you just have to sit and listen. People just sometimes want you to hear them out. It might not even be that, you know, what they're talking about makes sense. They may be ranting, raving, whatever, but sometimes people just want to be acknowledged and go, okay, cool. You're angry. I get it. Same thing you said about the car. Mm-hmm. My man's cut me off. If he had just gone, my bad. Oh, I keep doing this.
It's all right, bro.
My bad. You know what I mean? You then go, oh, snap. That's kind of diffused me a little bit. Because I'm like, oh, at least he's acknowledged where he went wrong. Mm. You know, whereas if he had not done that, if I had now had to beep, beep, he then goes, where are we at now? I want to jump out of the car. What do I want to do now? Like, what's the next step? We've now gone too far.
Yeah.
There was energy here we didn't need to waste.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy on conflict. It does not give you anything. It does not bring you any joy. Conflict never brought anybody joy.
But it's exactly that. So the learning for me over time was learning over the conflicts I was having. Yeah. So I love, my favorite thing to do right now in learning of myself, this is absolutely true, is reverse engineering my conflicts. Love it. So anytime I have a conflict and I feel a certain way, be it a big conflict or a little one, the bigger ones rarely happen now. This is like small conflicts. I love to reverse engineer from the final point to the start, so that if you go right to the first moment of that conflict, you then understand who was the trigger, or what was the trigger, or how did it happen. Yeah, it's literally finding the fuse to the bomb. That's what you're doing. You're deconstructing it to find the fuse, to go, oh, that's what it was. I need to look out for that next time. Or I need to be wary that that person is touchy in that way, or misunderstands me, or has some kind of ego problem, or has an internal issue with themselves, or there's something that when you talk to them about that particular topic, they can't take it and it will cause a conflict. So you have to almost socially engineer yourself in society.
So there's two things I've been holding in my head for a while, right? Mm-hmm. As you brothers have been talking, mm-hmm. and a third thing's popped up now that you've just said what you said, right? So being a Muslim, the first thing that I heard around any type of conflict or any type of negativity is always respond with that which is better, right? Mm-hmm. So when something bad happens, respond with something good. I've done that a couple of times in my life, not in these type of scenarios, right? More often than not, that's how I respond when I've got conflict within the family and friends, because it's the right thing to do. You want to preserve those relationships, and you don't want to damage them, so you just think, you know what, the brother's stressed, or she just doesn't understand, or whatever it is, just move past it. But I feel that works in certain scenarios. And then the other two things is, so we've got, so there's three stages to dealing with some injustice, right? Mm-hmm. One is to stop it physically with your hands. If you can stop it, we spoke about this, didn't we? Yeah. The second is to stop it with your voice, and then the third is to walk away and be displeased with the thing, right? That's what the hadith says. And then the third thing I want to mention, I'm just reeling these off because I know my brain's like, I'm going to forget this, right? Is make 70 excuses for your brother. So that's when you hear, that's more about when you hear about rumors through the grapevine about people, about things that they've done, and the right thing to do is to make excuses for that. Oh, maybe he did it because of this, or maybe he did it because of that, because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't literally mean sit there and reel off 70 excuses, right?
No, it's basically, look, always give somebody, and we do this a lot. I love to do this with people. I play devil's advocate. I hate that it's called that. But
no, I hear you, bro. I understand what you mean.
But I actually love to play, because the thing is this. You only ever get one side of the story unless both people are there telling you the story at the same time and agreeing that was the story.
Even then you don't get the truth.
No. But hence why I said they have to be there and agreeing with each other that the story is happening exactly how both of them are saying it. Yeah. And that's never going to happen because the minute I say my point of view isn't your point of view. You don't remember that little thing you said that I'm making such a big deal over, and all you're hearing is this. You're not hearing the rest of what I'm saying. It's such a crazy thing. So, it's one of those things where unless everybody's saying the same thing, you always have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Even today, I was dealing with something at work, I'm not a manager yet or whatever, but you know, every now and again, because I've been there long, people like to pass me things to do. Like, oh, no one's on the floor. It's your job. You do it. Oh, okay, cool. Send it to me. And this lady on the phone, she was literally going, look, I didn't like the way my consultant spoke to me. She sent me a text, told me I was ungrateful, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. How did you guys communicate this? Like, what was the situation? Let me just get a bit more context. And the reason why I need that is because obviously, look, I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. You know, I'm sure I could ask you to send me the screenshots. I could probably see the messages myself. But I just kind of want to understand where this communication, because this is meant to be somebody you work with on a day-to-day. And this is the first time I'm hearing you ever make a complaint about this person. So what is the actual situation that's got you here? And how did you guys communicate? Oh, we communicated on WhatsApp.
Done.
I was like, well, that in my opinion is number one, the problem right there. I said, because a text can be taken in any context. You can read a text that says, hello, hope you're good, and make it sound like, hello, hope you're good. like it's how you feel. You know, you read it. It's how you read it. No one can read it the way you read it. You know, but if you hear
so true,
but if you hear it, you know, and I said this to her, I was like, look, next time when you've got important information, why don't you call?
There's that Key and Peele sketch about this.
You know what I mean? Why don't
Have you ever
call?
seen that?
Yeah. Why don't you call? Because then next time you will actually know what is being said, the context at which it's being said. You'll know if this person's upset with you or not. They may have just been joking. I can say, get the heck out of here in one scenario, and it's like, oh, get the heck out of here. I can't believe you said that. And then the other sentence, it could be like, you, get the heck out of here. I don't like you. You know what I mean? So it's how you say things. And I think, you know, that was the first thing I tried to point. Now, don't get me wrong. When I actually spoke to her consultant, she probably said, yeah, man, that lady's annoying, and had her own scenario. And the scenarios don't match. But at the same time, in that instance, talking to the nurse, I can't just say what you're saying is right.
Yeah. But then, do you know...
I've got to play this in that, you know, ground.
Sorry to interrupt. Like, you saying that has triggered something for me, because I think about something that he's very good at. And this is what made me genuinely, day one, we talked about this on the corporate episode. This is what made me approach him and say, you'd be amazing in our job. Neus always says it as it is. Always. Like, he never tries to fluff what he's trying to say to you, but he's very good at articulating it to get you to understand the point he's trying to get across to you.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really rare in a lot of industries between customer and client.
100%. Yeah.
And it's something I like to do. It's something he does very well. Is that particular consultant turned around to you and went, yeah, that woman's really annoying and da-da-da-da. And you know what I used to say to me? Well, have you ever had the conversation, sit down with them and say that? Have you ever honestly sat down and said, look, we work together every day. I have to speak to you on a daily basis. This isn't healthy. How we're communicating, this isn't healthy. Right. Because this is how your conversations make me feel. This is
crazy. I never knew this side existed.
This is how my approach to conflict is now.
I'm gonna tell you.
This is how I deal with conflict now. Is I would rather calmly approach a situation that I know is going to cause conflict. If I'm going to complain to a company or go to complain to someone about something, or if I'm going to speak to someone about a conflict that has happened, I would rather sit down and calmly talk to them about what's going on in my life and what's going on in my headspace in a real-time way, and kind of explain to them how it made me feel and all of that. And 99% of the time, they connect with you. You have like a shared empathy and an understanding of the situation. And you both end up apologizing. You also both bond much better because you understand how your thought processes work.
Oh, 100%. I think, you know what?
Right. Yeah.
You're right. Because how conflict can get resolved. And a lot of the time, isn't it funny that most of the time the best friends you ever had in life might have actually come from some sort of conflict.
Absolutely.
Because you've actually pushed each other to a point where you now know your boundaries with each other. You're actually more closer than you ever would be because you're actually there. You're on the same level with people. So it's funny because, funny enough, the consultant, it was still miscommunication. Because even when I spoke to her in the end, the consultant, I was like, look, but all the lady wanted to know was this. There's 3 things that went wrong here. She wanted to know this. Obviously, she might not have communicated it the way you understood that's what she was looking for. But she was able to get that answer immediately from someone else, which then made her frustrated with you that all this time she's been arguing with you to get this simple answer and you weren't able to give it to her. So it may be that you didn't understand the question that was being asked of you, and hence because you couldn't give her that answer, this is where the conflict actually started. But this is what she was looking for. This is how we've dealt with it, and this is what I suggest that you do moving forward. Okay? And this is what we did with her. But funny enough, I have this story where I had a nurse. It wasn't my nurse. It was my brother's nurse. This is when my brother used to work with me. I was about to use that word, that but he didn't like this nurse. She frustrated him. Man, I could see the frustration on his face. If she started calling, you could just
stressed
see.
Out.
If you ever saw a turtle that would just put their head in their shell and just be out, like the minute the phone rang, is her name on it, he's like, oh my God, panic stations, fire alarms are going off, firemen are jumping down poles to run to the car, like everything's going off. It's crazy. But what's funny is when he left, I took this nurse on. And the only reason I took this nurse on is because nobody else would deal with it. And because I was the person who initially gave this nurse to my brother. But at the time, I'd never worked with her. It was a brand new nurse. But he told me all the stories. He told me everything. So one day she calls me. And for some reason, we had some issue where she didn't get paid on time. And man, if I tell you, I had a call with this lady where for like 20 minutes of the call, all she said, I couldn't get a word in. I was talking for ages, but she was not listening to anything I said. All she kept saying the whole 20 minutes on the phone, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? The whole 20 minutes on the phone, bruh. I'm not lying. It was the most annoyingly frustrating call I've ever had to take, because you're trying to explain to someone something in English. They're not even giving you the time of day. Wow. They're literally just taking the mic. But what's funny is I just, it turned around. I turned around and I said, you know what? How about you come to the office? If you want your money, come to the office. She said, what? I said, come to the office. You live in Milton Keynes, right? Come on down. Let's have a chat, and I'll show you where your money is. Funny enough, she actually did turn up.
No way.
Oh, yeah, she turned up.
Oh, they'll do that.
Oh, yeah, she turned up. Oh, she turned up. She turned up.
Were you expecting that?
Oh, yeah. Look. So this is one thing I wanted to get to you. I was ready to tell this nurse, I'm done. I don't do this with everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't have this problem with anybody else. And it's not because they don't have the same problems you're having, or they've never faced the problems you're having. It's because they don't deal with things the way you're dealing with them. You're dealing with them like a child right now. Yeah, you're supposed to be my age, and you're dealing with them like a child right now. So that was essentially what I did. I mean, I didn't talk to her like that. That was not the situation at all. It was actually, the situation actually turned out to be amazing, funny enough. And actually now, funny enough, whenever she calls me, even if she still has this problem, it's just, I'm going to leave you to it. You know what to do. And that's it. That's literally the conversation
that's
we
amazing.
have. But it's funny because when she came to the office, seeing me, being in the flesh, being able to hear what I'm saying, being able to see me actually doing the things I'm telling her I'm doing. Because it's easy for you to have a phone, and you have a phone. You're in one part of the world. I'm in another part of the world.
It's like being in the car with the window closed, I said earlier.
And I'm going, yeah, Ash, I'm currently doing that thing you told me to do. But you're in another room, in another place, in another thing, and you can't see what I'm doing. So how, and I'm not getting any closer to telling you what you want to know. So as far as you're concerned, you just think I'm mugging you off or taking the mic. Come down. Let's have a conversation. You don't know me. You've never met me in the flesh. Let's have this conversation. And you know what's funny is after I resolved this lady's problem and she left, she didn't get her money, because I told her straight, I don't have your money. If I had your money, I'd be in the Cayman Islands chilling somewhere. I don't have your money. Your money ain't with me. Your money's in the system. We're going to get you paid. This is what the situation is. This is what's going on. This is what I've been doing. Have a look at this. Have a look at that. This is what we're currently doing to get it sorted. She left there quiet. She even gave me a hug on the way out. Like, all right, cool. Yeah, and since that day, you know what? The one thing I like about her is we're very honest with each other. And I like that relationship that we have, because we've built this over this situation. And one of the things she said one day, she asked me something, and I gave her some long-winded answer of what the situation was. And she went, you know what, Sean? You're too good at talking. I'm done. thank you. I'll call you tomorrow. But it was just like, look, I was just about to have a go and say all of this, but you've just found a way to just take all of that power from me.
And that's it.
It's too much. I'm done.
That's it.
Thank you. Bye. You know? And that's all it takes.
But what a lesson for her. You know, and this is like those kind of 3 points I made earlier, you know, from what I've been brought up with is the power is with you.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, we all know somebody who's never got into conflict. No one would ever get into conflict with them because they know he ain't like that or she ain't like that.
They dictate the energy.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It dictates
so I was going to
the
say,
energy.
it depends. It goes both ways. You can have the really friendly person everybody loves, or you can have that dangerously quiet person that everybody just don't mess with him. Man.
Just steer clear of that person. But it goes back to what you said. And that's why I said to him, and I told everyone he'd be the biggest thing in what we do. But it wasn't because of that. It's because he's honest. He tells the truth. And one thing that frustrates me is when there is conflict, people who lie to try and buy time, because that's why we lie. We lie to try and buy time. Someone's conflicted, they're complaining, this and that. We lie to buy time. But the crazy thing is the truth can buy you 2, 3, 4 times the amount of time that the lie will.
That's crazy.
In all circumstances,
that's,
truth
you know what?
will give you more.
100%.
Lesson number 1.
Bars.
That was bars, 100%.
But no, 100%. And I would say that is one of my mottos is, and it's something I told my kid not too long ago. I might have even had this conversation with you at some point is, what are you scared of? Why are you lying? You know, it took me a long time to learn.
What was I lying about?
No, I'm just
I'm
saying.
playing.
I'm just saying. You don't need to be this person.
Yeah.
Just be honest with people. Look, we're all human. We all went through situations. You know, the thing Ash said that was crazy is, you know, we better ourselves the more conflicts we go through. You know, the more fights you go through, you become the best fighter in the world, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't always work like that for everybody, but you become a better fighter. The more things you go through, the tougher your skin is. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that he said is, you know, there's no need for, if you're in a conflict, the last thing you should do is lie. You know, and it's one of the most important lessons I've ever taught my kid was, look, the only reason people lie is because they're scared. If you're not scared, why are you lying? Who do you lie to?
Yeah.
The only reason we lie is because we're scared. You can't lie to yourself. You ultimately know the truth. So all the words you say, you know they're lies, but you know the truth. Why are you telling this? Why are you trying to make this conflict? Why are you trying to, you know, don't always be in a situation where you're quick to say things, you know, and that's why I said the 3-second rule. A lot of times I try to articulate what I'm going to say, even if it doesn't seem like I've spent 5 minutes doing it. I might have been doing it while you're talking, but I've already understood that this is what I feel I need to say. This is the best way to deal with this situation. I could prolong you, I can tell you all these stories, but ultimately if I get found out, what does that do? It ruins our relationship. It doesn't make things better. It ultimately only makes things better if we are very honest with each other. And I think, you know, in conflict, that is one thing that people are not. It's easy for people to get loud and in your face, but they're not actually being honest with you as to why. You know, that guy standing in your friend's face could have easily just gone, you know what? This is why I don't like you. You've been a pain in my neck. You did this to me, you said this to me, and these are the reasons why I actually don't generally like you, but I'm not going to sit here and shout at you and be this angry person. I want to resolve this issue. Yeah, I don't like the fact that I even have to think about you every day.
Yeah.
That must be frustrating for some people, I can imagine.
No, but I've got no shame to say I've been there myself.
That must be frustrating for people.
You know, even as recent as just after my old man passed away, and anybody who knows me knows I went through a real test of trials during that period, right? And it wasn't just about losing dad, it was about a lot of the relationships I had around me. It's a very difficult time, COVID, all of that, right? But I went through that myself, where I let somebody consume my day. And by the way, they had skipped off into the sunset a long time ago.
They were just living it
Just
in your head rent-free, as you said.
They have no idea that I'm sitting here angry about this. This is the crazy thing. It wasn't a two-way conflict. Whatever happened. And by the way, neither of us, went out of our way to do. It was just a massive misunderstanding, right? My old man was leader of the community. We've had this conversation. Leader of the community, very big individual in the family. So a lot of people were hurt in that time. So it's natural that when people are at their lowest, that they're going to act out and, do certain things and misunderstand and all of that, right? So I don't want to put anything on that person or on myself. It's not fair. But the point is, and it wasn't until kind of, last year that I really started to realize that it's just me eating myself up every day about this. It wasn't every day, but, whenever I thought about it, whenever I thought about that person, it goes back to right at the start of the podcast where I said, if you have a conflict with somebody and you constantly thinking about them, when you see them, you're going to have this massive animosity towards that person. They may have forgiven and forgot and moved on and actually really like you, but you have no idea because you just been spinning these negative thoughts in your mind about that individual. Neither of you may have experienced this, I don't know, but I definitely have, right? And I know of so many people that just allow what may be, it may not even be something that they truly understand. It could have just been a misunderstanding. It may not have been as blatant as a physical altercation. It could have been something, far more vague than that, right? And we just let it consume us. And I think, life is way too short, man. I've spent, periods in my life where I'm angry about something, and it never benefits me. It never makes sense. It never helps me, and I'm almost
bars.
No, thank you, brother. I'm
so real.
Yeah, and it's that's there was this movie you brothers might know. There was these two brothers, and their father said to them when they were young. Their father said to him, "Inside of ourselves, we've got two wolves. Mm-hmm. One is good and one is bad. It depends. It's on us which one we want to tame."
Okay,
yeah,
it's exactly.
And it's a really good analogy, right? But I can't remember what I keep telling myself it's 300, but I don't think it is, right? Whatever movie it is, if you know, comment, guys, let me know because that's really going to bother me if I don't remember it. That is a real testament to how we nurture ourselves in our lives. Do we want to? You're a very calm individual. Both of you are.
But it's time.
Of course,
it's
wrong.
Again.
But I was going to say to you,
but that's the end result,
because I was
right?
going to say to you a minute ago when you mentioned that was, I've been through those situations, but I went through them very young.
Yeah.
I've told you I grew up jumping from place to place. My family wasn't specifically as solid, so a lot of my anger at the time as a kid was towards my family, not understanding the situation of what's going on in my family, especially being the youngest at the time. It's like, yo, I'm just going with whatever is going on, but I actually have no clue as to what is going on. Yeah. And I kind of resent this situation because I'm just in this situation that I can't control. I'm the youngest, I'm a kid. I have no control over the situation. And I think going through that at a very early age allowed me to get to a point in my life where when I went back to Nigeria and when I caught up with my family and when I saw how things were, and you really go and think, man, this whole time I've been sitting here angry with all these people and life just been going on. They ain't been thinking about me like that. Like, obviously they've been thinking about me, but they ain't been thinking about me like the way I'm sat here thinking about them, wondering why they're not getting their thing, why this ain't working out, why this is happening. And it kind of, that was the thing that made me realize that I wasted a lot of time. And then the second thing I would say was also my niece passing away, which was more recent than obviously being a kid. I think that also made me realize that, we waste a lot of time on energy that isn't productive. It doesn't help. I've told you this. I had a fallout with my sister for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it was my niece's passing that made that situation where me and my sister are cool now, but it shouldn't have taken that situation, and when I think back to it, it's like, man, I wasted a lot of time and energy on this, maybe not necessarily negative, because I wasn't every day, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a very person that the minute I write something off, the minute I chalk it up to God and say, you know what, God, that's not my problem anymore. I leave that one with you. I'm done with it. I'm
exactly the same.
I don't tend to hold on to things, but at the same time, I'm a person that, like I said earlier, if I see something that I don't like, if I see something that might cause me conflict, if I see something, I steer away from it. I don't need to put myself in that situation. If people say, oh, yo, man, what you doing tonight? You want to come and hang at Mo's? Yeah, cool. That didn't sound.
That felt weird for him, man. That felt weird for him.
It was very weird. It was very weird. It was very weird. You guys know it was very weird.
right?
That looked very awkward. Yeah, so
I know him.
I do know him. But yeah.
Oh, that one killed me.
Oh dear. But yeah, if I'm going to Mo's, and I know that there's gonna be 2 or 3 people here that I don't generally get on with, that are generally gonna rub me up the wrong way. I know they know when I come here, they know exactly what to say to get me to be the way I am. Why? Mo, let's catch up next time.
Yeah,
I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just wind myself up. What's the point? As we, it's and the age thing is such a big thing because when you're young, everyone's your friend. When you're young, you're open to be more accepting to anything because you're trying to figure out who you are. When you're older, you're kind of more secure in who you are. At least you're starting to get there. So you start to understand what you like, what you don't like, what you don't want, what you do want, and it's a lot easier to now filter the noise. You know what I mean? Whereas when you're young, that's why we tend to get into a lot more conflict when we're young. Because we're happy to accept, I was hanging out with Mo's hanging out with everybody. I don't know half of these people, but whatever. Now I don't like that guy. That guy said he hate me. There's all these problems. I mean, whatever. You know what I mean?
It's easier to avoid those people as he's doing. Like, again, it's reverse engineering the situation. He's come to a point where he's realised when something like that's happened, he's reverse engineered it and gone, well, the first step was I walked into that situation. Yeah. I walked into the room of those people. I put myself
in that situation.
So moving forward, if there's someone ever in a room that I know will just perturb me, I'm not even going to walk in the room. Simple as that. And he's very good at doing it. Again, I keep going. He's very good. He's very good. Neus is good at this. But
I'm struggling with this concept.
So my friend wanted to go to Amsterdam recently, and if he listens to this, he'll know who he is. Maybe not everybody else will, but he wanted to go to Amsterdam recently, and there was a bunch of people that they were going with. It's a bunch of people, and some of them real day ones. Others, I don't really know them. I didn't go. Not because I don't feel like I have problems with these people, but there's potential. These aren't the people I feel comfortable always being around.
I don't know what you guys are like.
So yeah, I don't want to end up in a situation where y'all gonna do some crazy things and I'm not gonna be happy. I know my friends very well. I choose my friends very well. So the ones that are my friends, I'd be happy to be around them every day. But I don't know my friends' friends. And I don't necessarily want to know my friends' friends. Yeah. I feel bad that it's that way, but it's true. It's that situation. It's true. So for me, guess what, bro? I love you with all my heart. Catch you on the next one.
I must have made that decision 100 times. The amount of times one of my boys, cousins, or whatever calls me, be like, bro, we're hitting Barca, or we're doing this, or we're doing that. Come through. Who's going? Oh, so-and-so. Oh, and there's these 2 brothers of my boys. They're from here, man. Trust me, you're good. And I'm like, nah. I don't even want to tempt fate. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days with people I don't know. Now that's not me missing out. I don't think that's me missing out. That's
you knowing yourself. That's you knowing yourself.
100%.
And that's my point. The first thing is knowing yourself. The minute you know what you'll stand with, what you'll tolerate.
That's lesson number 2, man.
You know what I mean? The minute you know what
such an
tolerate,
important one. Yeah.
What you can tolerate, what you won't, you'll avoid the stuff you don't need to tolerate.
So I had this conversation with my family recently, right? And I took the decision, because of a number of things that happened over the last couple of years, I took a decision to take a step back from these social scenarios where I feel they're not necessary, right? In our community, in our culture, it's important to be there for the family 100%. Events, right? Weddings, funerals, birthday parties, somebody's just come back from so-and-so, or somebody's just graduated, or somebody's this or whatever. It's just very intense. Mm-hmm. And for me,
I know that schedule. I got a lot of friends with them schedules.
Yeah, and now I know I'm the sort of person that I've created this world for myself that I'm happy in. Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's not me sitting in a bedroom in the corner playing my PlayStation. Mm-mm. It's I love being around my family. I love being around my group of friends. But I love being at work. I love
just to interject. But even to begin with what you just said, I bet there's still social things that you will go to because 100%. They're within that world.
So that was the debate. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was the debate. That was, I was saying it to my mum, and this really bothers my mum, right? This is a big issue. It's contention between me and her, right? Is she's saying, your dad's passed on. It's important for you to be at all of these things.
Family, you need to show. And
I'm like, Mum, be real with you. Dad wasn't at everything. He was at one stage in his life, But when he hit late 30s, where I am now, he kind of took a back step because there's only so much of the same situation that you can take. And now, you know, you don't have those elders there anymore who kept everybody in check, who, because they were there, everybody kind of behaved a certain way. Now it's free thinking.
And isn't that funny? So we've just touched, in that space, you've just touched three of the things we spoke about earlier, the etiquette of how people behave.
Yeah.
You don't have those elders to give you that,
you don't.
I got to behave a certain way.
You don't.
Because I can't just be wilding out here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But this comes back to, I know, and this is what I've tried to explain to my family, right, is I know me right now. Sorry, go on.
Key word. I'm glad you did continue right now.
Yeah.
And you said the pandemic was an up and down.
Yeah, it was.
And that's what I'm trying to say earlier of like, I was calling the pandemic because I was happy in me.
Yeah.
I was happy in me. I'm comfortable in my headspace. It will come up a lot over time, okay? Hopefully, touch wood, podcast goes on, long time, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it moving forward.
100%.
But in that, you'll hear me bring up in future episodes about my mental space because I've been through every element of your mental space. That's how I can attach with people in any conflict situation of what they're going through because I've been through pretty much every space of my mental. I've been in every corner of my mind. There is no dark spots anymore. I know everything within my head, the majority of it.
Yeah.
Things you still learn, but I understand me. And because of that, I understand me and I understand my head. I understand how to keep myself happy by myself. And the reason that happened is because I spent a lot of time by myself forcefully. I put myself in a scenario of being segregated from everyone. Well, my family. Yeah. I segregated myself from my family because of my lifestyle. And because of that, I completely lost who I was as an individual.
So you regret that?
Hugely.
Yeah.
But if it hadn't have happened, I wouldn't have been who I am now.
Yeah.
And now my family I was talking to someone today about their siblings and I was like, oh, how many you got? Brother and sister. Oh, cool. Older, younger, one older. Cool. The brother was, I think, a few months, like a year difference. I said, oh, you must be really close to him. She goes, I am. I'm really, really close to him. I go, what about your older sister? She goes, nah. And I was like, see, the thing is when we were younger, I was really close with my little brother and me and my sister used to have conflicts. It was the standard older sibling, younger, you know, brother, sister, the whole tradition side of it where people think, oh, you just clash with your older sibling. Now, we'll take a bullet for each other. We are all best friends. Our partners are all close friends. Like as a six, we try to get together as often as possible, even though we live quite far apart. We get together as often as possible. And it was coming out of the pandemic, you found going into the pandemic, the people who struggled and the people who didn't were the people who had acceptance in themselves and were comfortable in their own mind, in their own space. And that's something you've been able to do for a long time, which I learned a lot from him in terms of how to control myself in certain scenarios and how I think situations. But I was already at a stage where I was completely confident in my own mind of who I was, what I was about, what made me happy. And through going through that process, I tried to say to people, it's so important. Like it's so, so important to know yourself. And the pandemic showed that. So that's the key thing of you going, yeah, right now. Yeah. I know myself.
And that's the thing, right? Is the way I think my mum looks at it. I don't know if she's going to see this, but we've had these conversations, right? But the thing is she comes from a different time. You touched on that. Different generation, different thinking.
The expectancies, everything is different.
Since she's lost her partner of 40 years, who was her be-all and end-all, right? And, you know, she was completely loyal to him. She was engrossed in his way of life. Everything was about him. Since she's lost him, everything else that reminds her of him, she's attached to. And that is the family, right? For her, the most important thing is family because it's physical, it's people, you can touch, you can talk.
Type of thing,
yeah, everything. So I think that's, I'm not sure if contention is the right word because it's not necessarily a conflict. It's more of, it's a difference of understanding, right? Not a misunderstanding. It's a difference of understanding is, where I am right now in my life, this is what I need. I need my ambitions. I need things that I want to achieve in life. I need my job. I need my kids. I need my family unit, you know, and all of my friends, everything. This lifestyle built for myself keeps me content, keeps me out of trouble, keeps me focused, and it makes me feel like
happy, right?
100%. And that's that's the most important thing for me right now. And you can say to yourself, well, why do all of those people change that for you? It changes that for me because I know myself. When I go to an event in the community and there's trivial conversations and there's, he said
sketchy
this and she
people,
said that, and then
like
there's
that.
conflict. The kids will be fighting in the car park. Everyone's screaming, shouting. There's nowhere to get. It's just a mad situation. Right? I come from a crazy family, man. But I mean,
we all do.
Yeah, we all do. Bernie Mac said it, right? We all got some. But anyway, I know when I'm in that situation, I don't feel happy. I feel happy when one of my family's getting married and I'm there. I'm celebrating with them. I'm really happy. I see they're at their highlight of their life is their wedding day. I want to be there when somebody's grieving and they've just lost one of their loved ones. I want to be there when somebody's ill and I just go put my arm around them and I go spend time with them in a hospital or at their home or whatever. Those are the meaningful things for me in life. Going to a birthday party or just because somebody's come back from Pakistan or going to Pakistan tomorrow, these things aren't as important to me because if I do all of that, I swear to you, Ash, I swear to you, News, it is draining. Almost it's draining and it's like a full-time job. Every weekend, you can't plan anything. I couldn't plan a podcast. I've had to make sacrifices. You know the amount of like events that I've missed because for me, this is the most important thing. For me, on a Thursday night, we have to do this.
This is therapy,
right?
man.
Yeah, and this is such a beautiful thing.
Well
I think
said,
a lot
therapy.
of us.
Well said.
Yeah, it's
Look,
beautiful.
The way I look at it is, you're right, man. We need to understand our situations. We need to understand the things that we sign up for. You can't do everything. Do the things that make you happy, ultimately. Like, I love the word you used. We use this word, and I love it so much. Content. You used it a minute ago. It's about getting to a place where you understand that, look, my family should know that I love them all, but I don't need to be there for every little thing. But I'm going to be there for the things that you need me there for, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. You call me, you need me there, I'm going to be there, definitely. But, if one of my cousins, sisters, brothers getting, baptized, they in the States, I can't go to the States every 5 minutes. Like, it's not going to happen, So at the end of the day, you got to do what you can, and be there when you can. Give things the attention when you can. Focus. But knowing yourself ultimately, that is the thing that makes you a strong person. I think that's why we always looked up to our elders. Because you assume they know what they're doing. It's only when you become an elder and you go, man, I don't have a clue. And these guys never had a clue what they were doing. All this time, I thought they was like some...
I've got a theory on that.
Ain't that funny?
Though. I've got a theory on that.
Ain't that funny, though?
It is.
Funny, right?
It is.
I literally thought this recently, bro.
As we grow up going...
There is
we were talking about it.
These
We were
guys are
talking about it.
geniuses. Oh, my God. They just know that they got all their stuff together. Then you get there and you realize, man, look, nobody had their stuff together.
Switch,
we were just going.
No one tells you, oh, you're the elders now.
We talked about it off camera, didn't we?
We did.
We were saying our parents clearly, like, were they scared the same we were?
100%.
Were they worried the same we were? Anyway,
100%.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I think, yeah, it's definitely, a resilience thing. Do you know what I mean? And
crazy.
We've got a lot more freedoms now, haven't we?
But it's easier for us to look at the people before us the same way that, your kids will look at you and think, man, Dad just has it all together, doesn't he? But if somebody asked you if you have it all together, what would you tell them?
Nope.
Exactly. And that's the funny thing. I was watching something.
Sorry, I haven't got time. I'm just patching something up right now.
It was funny. I was watching something the other day, yeah, and it said a lot of the reasons why kids fall out with their parents, yeah, is because they've come to understand who their parents are as people and don't generally like them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the reason why is because when a kid is young, up until maybe the age of, you might agree or disagree with the age I give, but I would probably say maybe 12. Up until the age of 12, most kids are just happy being kids. They see you see your parents in this different light. Mm. It's only when you start being a teenager, you start getting these other thoughts, you start getting a little bit more...
The pressures of society kind of thing.
Hormones kick in, you start to notice certain things, you start to see how the elders are interacting with each other, things that you now start to make up your own mind of, actually, you know what? I don't like Dad so much. Or Mom's the best in the world. Like, whatever that situation may be. But it's crazy because...
It's so right.
Because, and it's funny because I watched this thing and it said it, and I was just like, that's crazy. Because that is absolutely true. Like, if I had to think about it, even when I was a kid, you know, I would say up until the age of 12, 13, I was probably just a kid. It was just a phase. You're just a kid now. Doop, open your eyes. Figure it out. Learn something. You know what I mean? And at that point, that's when you actually start taking everything in. That's when you start to realize these guys don't all have it together. That's when you start to realize there is no master plan for any of this. There is no set play-by-play book. I thought I was going to get that book. Somebody, you do this, you do this, you do this, you get where you need to be. There's none of that, you know? And then that's when you start to realize that, look, who you are. You start to realize whether the things that were ahead of you helped you get where you are or are going to help you get where you're going, or whether the things that were ahead of you are actually a hindrance to you. You start to understand your life, man. And the moment you start to do that, I feel like that's
there was this.
That's what makes you, you know.
There was this video I saw today, a psychiatrist, and she was saying narcissists, right, are people that at one point in their life, there was a significant trauma that hit them, right? We spoke about trauma before in a different podcast, different episode, should I say, and she said when that trauma, when that significant thing happened, that core memory, it stopped them from developing certain some regulations and intelligence when it comes to their emotions, right? And they never got past that. So they became very complacent and very much protective, you know, going into this bubble of I am different from everybody, you know, because that thing has defined them and has made them that person. Time just stopped for them at that point. Yeah. And I think that's such an important thing to know is in our time, there's just a lot more people now. Do you remember in our hometown what it was like 20 years ago? There just wasn't as many people. You've got like 15 new estates now. Do you know what I mean? And it's as society develops, as it grows, and exponentially as it is now, there are going to be so many more people that you interact with that have had those childhood traumas, that have had those, you know, issues that have meant that, you know, they've got an element of adolescence still within them. You know, we all have it, man. Yeah, I know 100. When I look at some of my elders, man, or how certain elders live their lives, I think, man, I'm never going to be as mature as that person was. I'm never going to develop to that point because they were just built different. But I know I've had traumas, I've had conflicts. We spoke about them, like I said, in a different episode, which really act as a blocker for me to get past that point. You know, and it's only now I'm an adult that I have conflicts, like the one I spoke about a few minutes ago. That I navigate through that and I have these moments of clarity, or I have these moments where I think, nah, that's me, or, you know, this is how I should deal with it, or I should probably go squash that or whatever. But a lot of us don't deal with those kind of things from our past, man, like that were from a very young age.
But that's where you said about acceptance. No, you said about during pandemic, it made loads of people look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying, where I went to every single corner. But that happened to me when I was early 20s. I had a conflict with my father, and it was really about where I was going in life and how I was looking at life. And it was me not accepting someone who was trying to give me feedback of how I was looking at the world,
or how they saw it.
They were watching my journey from an outside perspective and trying to give me feedback on that journey, and I wasn't accepting it because it was my journey. And we had a big argument together, a huge conflict, and a friend of mine came and picked me up, took me away, sat in a car, and literally, I think I spoke about this, where it reverse engineering to the point where I realised I wasn't just the stem of that conflict. I was a stem of all of the negative things that were happening in my life. All of the things I was frustrated about, upset about, confused about. And you know, earlier you mentioned emotional intelligence. I'm a very firm believer of that.
Yeah,
I am a very firm believer that there's only 3 true emotions. And this is a good friend of mine, Kuds, and I, shout out to you. In university, we used to talk about it, emotional intelligence. And I'm a firm believer there's 3 true emotions: happy, sadness, anger. And then I call it a variable emotion, which is love. And the reason I call them that is because all 4 of those things can change the way you approach a single scenario. Whether you're sad, angry, happy, or in love, you can approach one scenario in 4 completely different ways. Yeah. And then you start understanding with emotional intelligence, what does that mean? So sadness, I should only really be sad at loss, really. That should be the only thing I should be sad about. I shouldn't be sad about my phone breaking or having, something happening to a possession of mine or something like that. The only thing I should be sad about is loss of something I really care about. It's the only thing I should be sad about. Anger, for me, we talked about rage when we were younger. Now, and this is something you're very good at, is I think all three of us are good at this. Like, I only really get angry at things that go wrong when they're in my control. So I was supposed to imagine you're supposed to pick someone up from the airport. You sleep in. You should be fuming at yourself because you missed the alarm and it was your responsibility to go and do that.
Yeah.
So I really beat myself up when it happens. And I remember speaking to my mum once. She was like, "You shouldn't be so hard."
Whereas I don't.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation. I've said that's the thing that differentiates us.
And I said, when I do have a conflict or I make a mistake and it's my fault, I really beat myself up about it when I reverse engineer and really think about it. I really beat myself up of failing that thing that was in my control.
Yeah.
And my mum recently on a call, she was like, "You really shouldn't beat yourself up." I reacted to something at work in quite an amateur, well, it wasn't an amateur way. It was the first time I was dealing with that situation. I reacted to it the wrong way. Didn't cause a conflict internally, just flapped about it when it wasn't that big a deal. To myself, I panicked myself up. And when I was speaking to my mum, she was like, "You shouldn't be so hard on yourself, my son. You'll learn from it and all this." I said, "Mum, I appreciate what you're saying, but you've got to let me feel like this. And the reason I say that is this is my process.
Yeah.
I promise you by tomorrow, I will learn so much from this and I'll be even better than I was. But you've got to let me feel this." And then if you don't know, if you're not intelligent of those things, my whole belief around it, because it's what happened with me, is you just live in a state of confusion.
Yeah.
Where everything offends you, everything upsets you, everything. And you can literally, a good thing is if you had Facebook for a long time, you've ever gone through a tough period where you've posted stuff, go back and look through your memories every day. And look at the stuff you used to post like 10, 15 years ago, the statuses you used to post up, and then tell me you can literally dictate what state of mind you were in at that time. Yeah. So if you're in that state of confusion, all I'll say is, it's just a message to anyone out there. If you're in a state where you're feeling confused, a bit lost, angry, it's because you've completely ignored yourself. And what you need to do is just snap out of it and really take a good look. And you need to assess all of those demons in your head and reconnect back onto the line of your path.
100%.
Because you've just completely ignored. You've worn so many masks, you've forgotten who you are. You forgot what makes you happy. You forgot what makes you sad. You forgot what makes you angry. And if you're in control of your emotions, of anger comes when I fail and it was my responsibility, and sadness is a loss, and love is when I'm in love with someone, I'd say 99% of the time you should be happy, right?
Yeah.
And 100%. That's why when we come into the pandemic, we're happy.
And I think if you have that kind of internal regulation, right, is you're less likely to get into conflict.
Yeah, it's like people who
deal with it in a bad way.
And people who lived in rage during the pandemic. So I know we're running on, but people who lived in rage during the pandemic, for me.
So you know the thing you said about anger?
Yeah.
It's weird because if I slept in, my logic would go, I messed up.
But I needed that.
No, not that I needed that, but but I messed up. But at the end of the day, we're here now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I can do to change what's happened.
Yeah,
I didn't do it. I didn't do it on purpose. I'd feel bad if I just was sat playing PlayStation and then go get the person. That'd be definitely something to be angry about. But then that also probably shows you didn't care that much.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'd overslept,
and it comes back to
this.
Don't
beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself. Why?
Because there's going to be a conflict off the back of that. Because the person will be like, "I can't believe you didn't come to do that." So there's two ways that's going to go. You're either going to lie and say, "Oh, my phone ran out of battery," or you're going to go, "Look,
it's learned.
I'm sorry.
It's learned behavior, right?" So I'm very similar to you, but only because, and I know exactly why it is because coming up when I've made mistakes, I have been absolutely scolded for it.
Yeah.
And it's the big ones where it makes a big difference, right? Yeah. And, it could be, more time it was in the family or in the community. Yeah. I made a mistake or I did something and I was reminded not just by my parents, but also the entire community would be talking about you. Do you know what I mean? So it's just that, and then you end up thinking, you beat a dog long enough, he's going to start to think he did something to deserve it, right?
Funny?
And it's
when you say that, is that it should be the opposite.
Yeah.
I want you to finish what you're saying, but it should be the opposite. And the reason why is because at the end of the day, these conflicts that we get into, if we sit here like, you know, I'm like you, I would have absolutely got scolded for it. You messed up, you did this, you did that, you did this. But, you know, the path you choose, what? You go down the route of making an excuse for yourself, or you just go, you know what? The ultimate thing that can just end this whole conversation, you're still going to be upset with me, Mo. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I made you wait 6 hours, or you had to walk, or something happened. You're still going to be upset with me. There's nothing I can do to change that, but I can ultimately just allow you to understand that I am sorry. I didn't mean to do that. It happened. I fell asleep. Me making an excuse doesn't give that acceptance that you're looking for. Because then ultimately, the only reason you're getting scolded, you know, and this is something I tell my kids all the time, if I didn't care, I wouldn't tell you any of this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't waste my energy. Why would I? I get so frustrated. If anywhere I've ever gotten angry or frustrated, it's talking to my kids.
You're 100%
like, yo,
right.
You need to take this in, and it's
right.
because I care.
Yeah,
if I didn't care, I wouldn't waste my energy.
I'm gonna very quickly talk this, and then we're gonna go to closing statements. Yeah, is like we're in court. Closing statements, guys, and then we'll make our judgment.
You're right.
But one of my aunties passed away last year, and it was just as thank you, brother. It's
really sorry to hear that.
It was my mum's sister, right? And she was ill for a long time. Anyway, we kind of expected it, right? But the point is, I was a week away from going to Pakistan, and I went and spoke to my cousins. I went to High Wycombe and I said, I can't change this. I need to go. And, you know, all the preparation money, spent everything. But no matter what time of day or night, whatever I can do from you from there, just let me know. When I'm back, I'll be straight back by your side, right? And he respected that and whatever. Anyway, a year's passed, and they do this thing called Barsina Hatam, which is it's like a memorial day, right? For the person that's passed away, death anniversary, let's call it. And so anyway, he organised that. I was in my feelings, boy. I heard about this. I called him and I was like, look, I just can't be around the family right now. I just can't. And, you know, where I am right now, I've got so many different plates I'm spinning. If I go there, I'm just not in a right headspace to see certain people and talk to certain people, right? And he knew
certain questions.
Yeah, heard certain questions. And he said to me, I respect that you've picked up the phone and called me. My advice to you is don't miss it, but I'm not going to feel any way if you do, right? Because I think you're going to regret it. I saw him this weekend at a wedding, and he came up to me, and me and him got so much love for each other. He goes, so those people that you were too angry to see, they're here today, aren't they?
Wow.
And I was like, my brother,
genius.
I'm looking in. This goes back to your point. I looked him straight in the eyes and I was like, you know what, bro? I made a mistake. I should have been there. It was your mum's 1 year death anniversary. Can't have been an easy day. And you've been there with me through everything. I should have been there with you that day. It was a mistake. I'm not going to give you anything else.
But
it was a mistake.
I mean, I don't know your friend, what his mindset would be, but I can imagine that if you said that to somebody, they would instantly be like, we're good.
Yeah, and he did. And you know what he said to me? He goes, I'm glad that you've had that growth between then and now.
And I think that's that you have that certain point. Correct me if you guys have done this, because I feel like we all must do this because we have quite similar mentalities. But you hit a stage in your life where you clean slate everyone. I call it a clean slate period. I don't do it all the time, but every time I have like a major shift in my life, I'll do a clean slate. And it's when I feel like the people, I haven't done one in a very long time. It's when you feel like people around you, it's starting to get muddled between like you've given so much time to so many people and you're changing a pathway and some people are starting to change their approach. Or the relationship's starting to get muddled.
You can't take everybody with you.
The gap's starting to build. And, that's such a good quote by Snoop Dogg, by the way, the gap, that it builds, you elevate, they have to come up, you can't go down. I love that.
100%.
But for me, it's you have to clean slate everyone, and whoever continues on that journey as a close side-by-side brother or sister of yours. Whoever doesn't, you've got love and respect for.
I've got love for you. We were always a thing, but you're just not this part of my journey right now.
If I knew you 15, 20 years ago even, and we were brothers or sisters at the time, and I haven't spoken to you since then, if you reach out to me and you call me, I will still treat you with that same amount of love at that moment. because you've done nothing to tell me otherwise that we're not like that anymore. So, yeah, it's just having control. Again, it's control yourself within all scenarios. That's what we're talking about.
100%.
Goes full circle back to the start of control.
100%. So I think I say this every single time. I'm conscious of the time.
We always let them run a little bit longer now, though.
We do. Each one gets longer. Each one gets longer. But I love that. We're gonna end up having a Joe Rogan podcast, 3 hours. Like, but I love that, man. I love talking to you, brothers. I learn something every single time, man. I just in a quick sentence, right? Again, I'm conscious of time. In a quick sentence, if there was one bit of advice that you could give to somebody when it comes to managing conflict, what would it be, Ash?
Keeping calm is so much more powerful than any other emotional state in a state of conflict. Keeping calm. If you say everything with, we said it before, conviction, belief, and that calm approach. If the person doesn't listen to you, then you've tried everything you can.
Yeah, 100%.
Simple as that.
Neus?
Learn yourself. If that makes sense. Learn yourself. Learn everything about you, the things that make you tick, the things that make you happy, the things that make you sad, in order to control what you can control.
100%. 100%, man. That was one of the most powerful points, I think, today's podcast, man, is knowing yourself. So mine would be, and I've touched on it earlier, it's very common advice that's given in the kind of Muslim world is always respond with that which is better, man. If you you don't know what state somebody's in, you don't know what they're going through, you don't know what demons they're fighting, they could just be acting out as a reaction of protection, and it doesn't need to always turn into a back and forth. So if you respond with something that's better, maybe it'll surprise you, maybe it'll diffuse the situation. But that's certainly my advice, and save me from getting punched in the face. So
stay honest and respectful, man. Do you know what I mean?
100%, man. But brothers, again, love for you guys being here.
Loved every minute.
Yeah, 100%, man. These get better and better. So guys, at @team_Akhi, we're everywhere.
Follow,
click, like, subscribe. Yeah, man. And share our content, guys. The more it gets out there, the more we're going to continue to do.
Make sure you comment.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
100%.
If you know the movie he was talking about,
let me know about the movie. Let me know about the movie. Blessings. Love, guys. Team Akhi out.
Thank you again.